Thank you so very much. Very humbling. I'm wondering who he was talking about as he's going through this thing, quite frankly. But it's funny, as we were talking about when I was making my first run, I laughed when I was first asked about running, and I said, no, I'd rather be a kingmaker than a king, because I've always worked kind of behind the scenes and never really stepped up to run. And when I get pressed a little bit more, I said, no, those are jobs that actually when you win, you lose. And I'll say that tongue in cheek, but the truth of the matter is what I find that I enjoy the most about serving on the council is the constituent services. I love the idea of getting a phone call or an email from somebody or running into somebody on the street, sometimes literally, and them bringing up an issue. And then me saying, well, let me see what I can do about that. And I know that both the department heads who are here tonight, Bob Luongo and Steve Riley, they hear me as I come back with some of this stuff. Basketball hoops, what the heck's going on with the court over here? Or what's going on with this subdivision or whatever? And so I appreciate the responsiveness that these guys have. Ted Langell has been huge for me.
How did I forget him in the introductions?
Ted Langell, honestly, Bob was Bob because Ted is here. And quite frankly, I'll say the same thing to Mike in advance, that between Ted and TJ, Mike will be able to do a phenomenal job. And so,
But I'll call it good to TJ.
They're going to start with Rick, though.
They're going to start with me and start with putting me back into office. Before I get started, though, what I'd really like to do is...
He'd like to introduce his wife, Cheryl.
I'd like to thank my wife, Cheryl, and anybody who knows us is that I was just teasing about how Bob would not be Bob without Ted. Let me tell you something. I would not be anything without Cheryl. They always say that guys, well, I certainly would say, guys marry up, women marry down. And in my case, that's been the case. My wife, you'll hear me talk about her, and I'll jokingly say she's she who must be obeyed. But the truth of the matter is my prayer every day is that her eyes will never be open. And I say, what on earth was I thinking that many years ago? So thank you, Cheryl. I really appreciate everything you've done. I also want to thank, before I forget about this, because it's easy to get into everything and then you just step back and say, man, I wish I had done it. But Eric Hines, I really want to thank Eric Hines and Cassidy and Michael here at Precinct 10, the entire staff here. These people are awesome. They've been very, very kind to me with my campaign the first time around, this time around, and just a great friendship for a lot of years. Eric has been wonderful for us. So thank you to Eric Hines and Precinct 10. And have dinner here, have dinner at Stockholders, have dinner at in at Bay Point, and down at, is it 57 or 42 Atlantic? 42 North, down in Plymouth. And great food and reasonably priced, and it's a great place to go. So there is a lot of stuff that's been going on in Weymouth. And the big concern that I've got is I want to make sure that things keep going in the direction they've been moving and keep moving steadily. There's going to be a lot of change on the council this year. And anybody who's I've been talking to, I've said, I'm not worried about the executive branch of the town government. I think that the handoff between Mayor Headland to Mayor Melise has been smooth. I think there's a little bit of a difference in the way they do things. I understand meetings start on time and you can have morning meetings now. So, and they don't run as long, I understand. And there's not quite as many stories as there may have been. That's awesome. But that, you can say that now because he's no longer.
How would you know this? You're not in the meetings.
The word travels. Anyway, but the direction of the town in that sense is going to continue. But what I don't think a lot of people understand is that at minimum, 25% of the Weymouth Town Council, the legislative end of this town government is going to be changed. It's going to be new. And there's a possibility, a very real possibility, as frightening as it might be, is that a third of the council could be new. That could upend anything that's been being done. And so if we want to keep things moving the way they're going, we want to really be paying attention to who we're putting in. And Pascal Berger here is in a tight race. And I would ask that you would be supporting her if you're in North Weymouth. There's a lot of stuff, as I said, that's been done. We are on track right now with MWRA. Thankfully, that application is if it's not been completely done, it's well on its way to being submitted. And I think that sometime by the time of, 2030 thereabouts, we should have MWRA water running here. That sounds like it's so far off in the distance. But the truth of the matter, if we did not have that application already on its way now, New England Development would not be moving forward with Union Point. Union Point is critical. Do you realize, and I've said this before and you'll continue to hear me say this, right now, as of today, 5% of Weymouth's population is living at Union Point. It's not that place out there that's, they're on their own. They're part of this community, part of this town. And so it's up to us to make sure that that continues to move forward and that development out there continues to move forward responsibly. We want to make sure our neighborhoods are maintained. Some of you heard me talk about the accessory dwelling unit stuff. That's one of the things that I'm kind of working on a little bit, and it's tough right now because that's coming from the state. Basically, it's saying that by right, you can put any sort of a secondary dwelling on your property, okay, up to 900 square feet. It's the end of single-family residential neighborhoods in Massachusetts. And in my opinion, it's overreached by the state. It's this thing that says, well, if it's going to be good for Boston, it's going to be good for Rowley and for Weymouth and for Sturbridge and wherever. And it makes no sense, frankly, in my opinion. And so I'm working to see if we can't get that, somehow working with some state people to see if we can't get that rolled back a little bit. There's a lot of stuff you've seen happening with the roads. Thankfully, under the previous administration, continuing on with this administration, roads are being improved in Weymouth. You go to other towns and you don't see anywhere near the sort of money being spent that's being spent here. And fiscally, we've been very responsible in this town. Again, I was reading an article when Braintree's finance officer, and how many people have looked at Braintree and saying, wow, what a great town. Look at the tax rate they've got, and it's great schools and all the other stuff, right? Braintree's finance officer takes position. He says, I hope we don't have to have another override. With all the stuff we've got going on here in Weymouth, with all the parks, with all the ball fields, with all the road work, with the library, we've got about the lowest tax rate of any community in the South Shore. I don't know what it's going to be for 2026, but for right now, it's $10.10 a thousand. That's as low as you can pretty much get. And we're still doing all these services. No tax increase. That's because of the development we've had. With the people who are talking about, oh, there's too much, there's too much, there's too much. If we were to stop developing, Hingham, Norwell, Hanover, they're going to continue to develop. Abington, Whitman, Bridgewaters, they're going to continue to develop. We'll get the traffic, we'll get none of the revenues. Back of the envelope figuring. My office used to be in Weymouth Landing, across the street from the post office. Many of you remember where that was. We were paying about $5,000 a year in taxes in that. We sold the property about 4 years ago. There's 28 condos that went in there. And in my opinion, I think they're looking pretty nice, frankly. It's a nice development that went in there. 28 condos, and those are bringing in about $150,000 a year in taxes. 5,000, 150. That's going to the stuff, the improvements that are going on in the town. Now you multiply that by what's going on in the other developments. Jackson Square is on its way right now. That's big improvement. Weymouth Land is in great shape. Columbia Square is looking great. Jackson Square is beginning this year. We want to turn our attention now to Bicknell Square. I grew up in North Weymouth. And when I was in North Weymouth, boy, Bicknell Square was vibrant. Little drugstore there, mom and pop shops, great place. Let's get it back there again, okay? And so that's one of the things that we're going to be working on over the next few years as well, and we want to keep that moving. So all this, frankly, starts with getting me back in and getting our people back in, get Pascal back in, and get some of the other candidates that we've got for at-large in place. And so I thank you for your support. If you want signs, we've got signs that you can take with you now. give me your address and I can make sure those get up there. Write me checks and vote. Get your friends out. Vote early. I can't say vote early, vote often, can I? But get out and vote on November 4th. Early voting begins on October 20th, and it runs until October 24th, I believe it is. You've got to go to the town clerk's office to vote, but do it. Or get out on the 4th and make sure you vote and get your friends and relatives to vote. Thank you again for all your support. I love the turnout. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Just 1 second. I forgot one thing in my introduction. I wanted to start the introduction by just noting the passing of Jim Melody, who is running for council.
Sorry.
And I was going to offer a moment of silence, but instead we'll just offer a quick toast and to Jim Melody, who really loved this town, who embraced this race, and worked as hard as anyone I've ever seen in 30 years running for office, and died doing what he loved, what he embraced, literally putting a yard sign in someone's yard. And thoughts go out to his wife and children, and the wake is tomorrow, the funeral's Thursday. So, Jim Melody.
Here, here. Thank you all.